Goodwill might make you feel good, might make the customer think well of you for 3 minutes, but it ain't going to pay your bills. Do not trade on it. Do not use it as a currency. We've had a situation this week where we have a particularly large property that we clean the windows on, and it's 40 quid every 4 weeks, and it is more money than usual, but we have to treat our customers the same. And it doesn't matter if you live in a first floor flat, it doesn't matter if you live in a bedsit, it does not matter if you live in a multi-million pound mansion. End of the day, T's and C's apply to everyone equally, and you have to enforce that. There is no amount of goodwill is going to pay your bills. It's just not. So we've, as usual, we text all our customers the night before, so that it's not a surprise to customers that we're coming to clean the windows, and they can leave their access unlocked for either myself or any of the guys to access and clean the windows. And we have texted this customer, and we've got there, and this property has an 8-foot wall that divides the property effectively into two halves, and the access was left locked. Adam, who was doing the job at the time, rang me and said, "What do you want me to do?" And I says to him, "Right, have you tried to ring the customer?" "Yes." "Okay. Sorry, so have you knocked on the door?" "Yes." So there's no answer. "Right. Have you tried ringing them?" "Yes." It's just ringing out." "Okay, fine. Do the windows that you can do, and send the full invoice," which we have done. And then 2 weeks later, which is like this week, the customer texts me and says that ultimately she's received an invoice for a full invoice, but she knows that we would only have been able to have done half. Okay. And she was asking if ultimately, we could reduce the price on the invoice. Nope. The reason we don't do this is because we have our T's and C's, as I've mentioned. If ultimately we were to allow this invoice to go halves, then, or reduce in any way, then ultimately we've got to do that with everybody. And if you do that, you stand to lose a lot of money. A lot. I mean, I know that generally speaking, we can lose anywhere from 50 to 200 quid a month on skipped cleans through things like people going on holiday, people having bereavement, people having work done on the property, perfectly legitimate reasons to skip their clean. If you add into that a customer's forgetfulness, carelessness, if you take on that customer's problem and make it your own, that could cost you a lot more money than what ultimately it needs to be. If you were to do that, I mean, you might as well just get a handful of pound notes, and just set fire to them. It's of no use to you. I've promptly replied to the customer and said, "Look, we text all our customers the night before. We were not able to gain access in line with our T's and C's. Therefore, a full invoice is due. Love and cuddles, Chris," effectively. And customers turn around and says, "Well, we've been in India and we've had poor signal." And I says to them, "Well, yeah, you have, but here's the thing. If you'd have let me know before you went to India, before you left to go on holiday, we could have skipped the clean altogether, costing you nothing, and we could have brought other work forward so that ultimately the business does not lose money when someone goes on holiday. We can mitigate that loss, if you like, be more productive, etc. Right?" Customers turned around and said ultimately that, blah, making all these excuses under the sun. And I said, well, if you read your T's and C's, then ultimately you will see that ultimately it's your responsibility to text us. which is the case, with the greatest will in the world. I have hairy balls, not crystal balls. I'm not psychic. I've no way of knowing that customer's going on holiday, or any of my customers are going on holiday, unless they tell me. And guess what? If they tell me, I can do something about it. If you don't tell me, how am I to know? And she simply says, I didn't mention the hairy balls bit, obviously. But she's then turned around and said, well, you do next door, so it's not like you're going out of your way. And here's the thing. I have replied to this customer and said, look, it's not about us going out of our way. Yes, Adam is doing that house, but guess what? If you expect him to do that for half price or for a discounted rate, then ultimately the business is losing money. It's not what the purpose of the business is. It's to make money. Adam will not take a pay cut. I can't unburn diesel, and I can't bring other work forward to fill the void, the loss that's happened. I can't fill that loss. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, how are you going to bring work forward? You can't. So I says, no, in line with the T's and C's, it is what it is. I'm sorry, full invoice is due. But next time you go on holiday, tell me and I'll just skip the clean. The customer has then turned around and said, and this is where the goodwill bit comes in. This did annoy me, to be fair. Customer has basically said, we'll pay the invoice, Chris, not a problem. But we'd appreciate a bit of goodwill in future. Goodwill. That's interesting. So if, let's put the shoe on the other foot for a second, right? Let's say, for argument's sake, I was to send Adam to clean the windows on that house. And let's say Adam misses a window. Will she extend goodwill to us to clean those windows? Better still, if the van breaks down and you're unable to attend, will the fact that we've been cleaning your windows for 6 years or 7 years actually mean that we've accumulated enough goodwill for you to pay us for a job we've not done? I don't think it will. The customer that's going to quibble over, a customer that is going to quibble over the amount of windows that were done because they didn't tell us they were going on holiday, they want a cheaper invoice. Someone that wants a cheaper invoice is not going to extend you goodwill. So why do you expect me to take a loss when you're not prepared to meet that loss at your end? Yeah. If I have not texted the customer the night before, if we in any way do not uphold our end of the terms and conditions, then ultimately that's our fault and we take the hit. Absolutely. But if you don't tell me you're going on holiday, how am I supposed to counter that? The irony is, this lady runs an Airbnb. I think several Airbnbs that she runs. Now imagine for a minute that customer has a booking, and on the day of that booking, the day that customer is supposed to arrive, they all of a sudden get a phone call saying, actually, we'd like to cancel. Could we have the lion's share of our money back? Nope. It won't happen. You book something on Airbnb and there's no insurance or, cancellation fee thing, condition set in place, then ultimately you lose your money. Because now the Airbnb as a business cannot bring other work forward, cannot find a customer to fill that slot at short notice that you've booked. Therefore, the business takes a loss. That's not acceptable. So if it's not acceptable for her, why does she expect it to be acceptable for me? No. Treat all your customers the same. And then that way, no one can turn around and say, you give special treatment to somebody because they live in a big house. Or they have money. You know what I mean? If you have integrity and say, no, shit bust, the terms and conditions are such, and I will enforce them, yeah? Because here's the thing. You don't uphold your end of the bargain, you can bet your balls to a barn dance that customer is going to enforce their side of the terms and conditions and say, well, you said you do this, you said you do that, you're not upholding your end of the bargain. They would come back at you like a 5-foot tsunami of shit and tell you you're not doing your end of the bargain, but they will not. But as soon as As soon as they uphold their end of the bargain, they say, "Ah, well, Chris, a bit of goodwill." Nah, mate, not happening. I would sooner lose you as a customer than accept a loss on that job. I'm sorry. You know, if you are prepared to accept loss for one customer, you have to accept loss for all. And then you end up with a bloody charity, yeah, or a very expensive hobby. You don't end up with a business. The business has to succeed. You can only grow a business if it has money and cash flow moving. Hold your customers to terms and conditions and let the rest take care of itself. If they don't, if the customer doesn't want to meet those terms and conditions, they have ultimately two choices. They can either carry on having the service and abide by that service, or not want to abide by the service and find another window cleaner. And that's it. Yes, we're only, people might say, oh, well, you're only a window cleaner, and all that sort of stuff. Well, fine. If you hold such little value to what we do it yourself. I don't care. But just think on. Goodwill is not a currency, and you shouldn't use it as such. Keep on keeping on, boys and girls. See you in the next one.